Alyssa Milano is here and Debby Ryan as well.
Yay.
Good to see you, Alyssa, again, and Debby, you in person too.
Yes.
You guys, I'm sure you guys have become almost roommates now after working together and then being around the world.
Are you kidding?
Lately.
I wish.
Right?
I wish I could just get to her shoes. If we were roomies, could we share shoes?
Oh, if I could borrow every one of your dresses, you could walk around in any of the shoes.
For sure.
Yeah,
We had the same conversations, Tanya and I.
Yeah.
So they're starring in Insatiable, which is on Netflix, which we'll get to in a second. But had the two of you known each other before you did this together, Alyssa?
No, we had never met.
No, we
had
hadn't.
never met.
And you both started in the business at 7 years old, so you would think that you would cross paths at some point.
Right, but she was like 2 generations before
I
me.
can't tell. You can't tell.
Or after me, I
Ageless.
should say.
Yeah.
After me, yeah.
You both started. You started at 7. Is that what you were telling me?
I was 7 years
7?
old. Yeah.
Do you? So I know you have kids, Alyssa. Is that a blessing or a curse to start that young in this world?
I think it's both. I think it's really, really weird.
Yeah.
But also, I had some learning differences, so I look at being tutored on a set as being a blessing.
Right.
I was also blessed with a show, Who's the Boss for 8
A long
years
time,
yeah, we shot the pilot when I was 10 and it went until I was 19, and we had the most amazing cast.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that I give them as much credit raising, a functional
Because you were there for
human
so
being.
many hours.
Right, because I was there more than I was at my home. And I had an amazing family. My parents have been married for 50 years, and it was very important for my mom to have food on the table. And
That's why she came out normal. Like, because she actually came out normal.
And if you ask her, she's like, it was important to me to have the clean underwear for you.
Those are the priorities.
Yeah, those are the priorities.
that.
Like, I don't need to highlight your lines. It was more important that you had clean underwear.
I like that, though. That's what builds good character. And Debby, what did you do at 7? What was?
Well, at 7, I moved to Germany, and so that was where I tried to find any place that spoke English.
Right.
And
how'd that go? Did you find any places that spoke English?
I found one.
Okay.
I found the kind of American military base.
So your father was in the
service.
service.
He worked with the Department of Defense for the government, and still
didn't know
does.
that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah.
She's not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah, so he'll be in
careful
here
what we
any
say.
moment, swooping in. Yeah. No, he and I, we traveled, and they began to homeschool us, and then we went to German public school, just kind of immersion, and learned German, and our hobbies were on the base. So that was kind of where there was a theater, and that was where I began.
Oh, interesting.
And then when I was 10, before that I had done whatever, but like school, theater, and private school, and my mom would write and produce the plays and do all the things and leave me in charge as just like a sassy little kid.
So you're running the show at a young age.
Apparently, which is quite interesting. And I also would hide behind her skirt. So I think that being on the stage was the only place that I could own myself, because it was like hiding in plain sight.
That was true for me too, actually.
Really?
I was super, super shy in front of people, but very outgoing if I was performing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something.
Well, it's funny because Kelly Ripa and I talk about this, whereas we panic if we have to give a toast, but we can do a show every day. Like it's like a weird, and not that we're performing because we're just making stuff up, but
It's
there's
the
a
context
thing.
of what you're comfortable with.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's like small crowds freaking me out. Large ones, I have no issue.
I was just talking about that, actually. The idea of it's so terrifying to be in being able to make eye contact with everyone.
everybody.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
That's scary.
Anything over 40 people is
comfortable.
Can be an arena. I don't know.
I think that's a creative thing too.
Fantastic. I'm a creative.
Yeah. There you are. Was there any doubt?
Yes. I see Lauren Gussis is in the corner watching our every move.
Yes.
Who's she's the brains behind this new series on Netflix called Insatiable, which stars Alyssa Milano and Debby Ryan. So, Alyssa, you want to sort of set up the premise, and then we have to talk about some of the headlines that the show is getting. A lot of people are talking about it.
I mean, the show to me is about a bunch of people coming of age, and Patty being one of them, which is Debbie's character. And do you want to describe the beginnings of your character?
Yeah, she grows up incredibly bullied and kind of a broken family, and her mom's a bit of a hot mess. And she is going through kind of figuring herself out under intense bullying and intense scrutiny, and that has created some damage within her. And then through a tipping point in a series of events, ends up getting her jaw broken and wired shut, and returns to school a few months later in a completely different body, and then is met with different treatment, which then ignites and kind of fuels a rage, being the exact same person who she always was, with the exact same personality and style and
Yeah, the
chucks,
inside
and
was the
she's
same.
Same girl, and sees such a drastic and intense change in the way that she's treated, and finds that unfair and angering. And then through that kind of damage, and also her insatiability, right? Everyone on the show and everyone's character has different versions of it. That leads her, and the damage kind of navigates her a little bit into some tricky places, and then everything goes off the rails.
Yeah, and in the meantime, my husband, played by Dallas Roberts, finds Patty and basically makes her his pet as a beauty pageant coach.
Right.
So he's sort of molding her, and they form this beautiful friendship, which my character, Coralie Armstrong.
By the way, it's
Coralie
it takes place in the South, so she gets to be Coralie.
Coralie.
Yeah.
Emphasis on the lay.
Yeah, what would you say are her flaws?
None, thank you. Thank you very much. She has no flaws.
Yeah.
She's
Never heard
flawless.
of them. Yeah.
But my character is going through her own transformation, which at first she's sort of jealous of this Patty person. Why is she invading my space and my husband's time? Why are you wasting your time on this crazy person? But then they form this kind of understanding with each other that I think is really beautiful. And my character sort of runs parallel in the storyline of coming of age, but it's middle age. To me, she's like this 45-year-old woman who's just starting to discover who she is. She's been married forever. She has these kids that are now growing up. So she's potentially going through the empty nest syndrome and reflective and thinking like, okay, now what? Now what is this going to entail for the rest of my life? And I think people can relate to that aspect, and also every single character along this trajectory of these 12 hours of a TV show goes through some sort of transformation, but also trying to fill a void within themselves.
And you see all of that, and you see their flaws, and you see the humor, and they say it's a dark comedy, and it also has generated a little bit of controversy because of what you were describing, Debbie, how your character starts off, but I think from people who haven't seen the show, right? I mean, they've been quick to judge it in a way, and I know, Alyssa, you've been very public about saying you're proud of it for certain reasons.
I'm very proud of the show. I will not apologize for this show because, first of all, I think that there's not controversy surrounding the show. There's controversy surrounding a 1 minute and 28-second trailer that people have not seen. And I think the controversy actually is important, because I think that what we're saying is don't judge a book by its cover. And yet people were judging the trailer.
You're so ironic, right?
Yeah.
Right, totally.
And maybe Netflix is totally a genius as far as marketing, or maybe they just lucked upon that. But I think it's incredibly important that this conversation was raised, because there's many more conversations to have within the 12 hours of this show, and I would assume we'll be having them.
And the good news is it's all up at once.